Hello everyone, John AG here. Welcome back to my channel Aurex. If you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel. In this channel, you will find the real information, real market updates that everyone cannot tell you. So please subscribe to this channel and love you all of my subscribers for your support. And please watch this video till the very end because YouTube will not push my videos to more people. And I will add many things related to this topic and make this speech fully professional with an emotional human touch and powerful. To understand the sheer magnitude of where we are going and why your wealth is in immediate peril, you have to understand exactly where we stand today, on Monday, May 11th, 2026. We are standing on the precipice of a monetary abyss. Just over 2 months ago, the geopolitical landscape was fractured beyond repair, when the United States and Israel launched their coordinated and unprecedented strikes, targeting the highest echelons of Iranian leadership. The world watched in stunned silence. But the retaliation was not just kinetic, it was an act of profound, calculated economic warfare. Iran did not simply fire missiles into the desert, they went for the absolute jugular of the Western world's economy. They targeted the Strait of Hormuz. Look at a map, and you will see that the Strait of Hormuz is a narrow, vulnerable choke point at the mouth of the Persian Gulf. Historically, roughly 20% of the world's entire global oil volume flows through that tiny, fragile strip of water. It is the artery that keeps the global economy breathing. Today, that artery has been severed. It is a maritime graveyard. The blockade is absolute. Merchant ships have been abandoned, and insurance premiums for tankers have skyrocketed to mathematically impossible levels. For the average person sitting in Ohio, London, or Tokyo, a strait halfway across the world seems like a distant, abstract problem. They think it just means paying a little more at the gas pump. But it is not a distant problem, because oil is the literal lifeblood of the modern global economy, and the US dollar is the cardiovascular system that pumps it. But here is the part the financial media is terrified to tell you. This goes so much deeper than the price of gasoline. Since the 1970s, since we went off the gold standard, the US dollar has maintained its supreme, undisputed global status through one specific mechanism, the Petrodollar agreement. It was a masterpiece of geopolitical leverage. The deal struck in 1974 was brutally simple. Saudi Arabia and the OPEC nations agreed to sell their oil exclusively in US dollars, and in exchange, the United States provided unwavering military protection. This singular agreement forced every nation on the face of the earth to hold US dollars if they wanted to buy the energy required to keep their citizens from freezing in the dark. It created an artificial, bottomless global demand for our currency. It allowed the United States government and the Federal Reserve to print trillions upon trillions of dollars without causing immediate hyperinflation at home, because the rest of the world absorbed our excess cash. We exported our inflation. We traded paper for the world's real, tangible labor and resources. What happens to that system when the Middle East erupts into total war? What happens when the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and their rapidly expanding network of allies, look at the chaos, look at the weaponization of the dollar through swift sanctions and frozen reserves, and finally declare that they have had enough? We are currently living through a phenomenon that economists call forced de-dollarization, and it is no longer a slow academic transition discussed in university lecture halls. It is a panic run for the exits by the largest sovereign nations on Earth. Back in 2016, the US dollar made up over 65% of global foreign exchange reserves. As of right now, in the second quarter of 2026, it has plummeted below 59%, and the bleeding is accelerating by the hour. Nations are dumping United States Treasury bonds and hoarding hard physical assets at a pace unseen since the prelude to the Second World War. Listen to me very carefully right now, because this is why I am pointing to December 2026 as the critical, inescapable breaking point. We are facing the terrifying convergence of three massive economic tidal waves. First, we have the energy inflation spike. With oil surging well past $100 a barrel and the Strait of Hormuz shut down indefinitely, the cost of manufacturing, shipping, harvesting, and producing every single item necessary for human survival is skyrocketing. The Federal Reserve is trapped in a box of their own making. If they print more money to bail out the failing economy and the struggling consumer, inflation goes to the moon and destroys the currency. If they keep interest rates high to fight that inflation, the United States government will default on its staggering multi-trillion-dollar debt load. Second, We have the finalized implementation of the BRICS alternative payment system. For years, China and Russia have aggressively expanded their own banking networks, bypassing the Western SWIFT system entirely. By December of this year, a critical mass of bilateral trade agreements involving billions of people will permanently settle their energy and trade accounts in local currencies and gold. This effectively amputates a massive, unrecoverable chunk of global dollar demand. Third, and perhaps most terrifying, is the United States debt wall. The government has a historically unprecedented amount of short-term debt that must be rolled over and refinanced by the end of 2026. They desperately need buyers. But foreign central banks are no longer buying our debt. They are actively liquidating it. When foreign nations stop buying American debt, the Federal Reserve has no choice. They must step in as the buyer of last resort. They will be forced to turn the printing presses back on to fund the government, while inflation is already raging out of control. This is the textbook mathematical definition of a currency collapse. We saw it in Weimar Germany, we watched it destroy Zimbabwe, we witnessed the tragedy in Venezuela, and the mathematical laws of economics guarantee it will happen to the US dollar. I know these facts are heavy. I know it sounds terrifying. As human beings, we are biologically wired to crave stability and predictability. We work our entire lives, grinding through 40-hour work weeks, sacrificing our health, bleeding our precious time and energy for pieces of paper that we inherently trust hold intrinsic value. Imagine a father working brutal overtime shifts just to save $10,000 for his daughter's college fund. He sacrificed his weekends, he missed family dinners, he gave up pieces of his life, all for that $10,000. But if the currency loses 30 or 40% of its purchasing power in a single year because of a geopolitical crisis and decades of central bank mismanagement, that father wasn't just heavily taxed. His very life energy, his time, his love for his family was stealthily stolen from him by a printing press. That is the hidden, insidious, silent violence of inflation. It is a regressive tax on the poor and the middle class, and it is exactly what the political and financial establishment does not want you to understand. We must have a candid, unfiltered conversation right now about what money actually is. Pull a $100 bill out of your wallet and truly look at it. What are you holding? You are holding a piece of linen and cotton blend with some green ink stamped on it by a bureaucrat. It has absolutely zero intrinsic value. You cannot eat it, you cannot build a shelter with it, you cannot power an engine with it. Its only value comes from a fragile, collective hallucination. A shared psychological belief that tomorrow a farmer or a baker will accept it in exchange for something real, like a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk. But history shows us time and time again that when public trust evaporates, paper currency simply reverts to its true intrinsic value, zero. Throughout the entirety of human history, stretching back over 5,000 years and across countless fallen empires, only two things have remained universally recognized as honest, unprintable money: gold and silver. Today, we are not going to talk about gold. Gold is the money of kings. Gold is the money of central banks. Gold is what sovereign nations are hoarding right now to settle their massive geopolitical debts. Gold is already largely priced for the perfection of this crisis. Instead, I'm going to show you the silent guardian of wealth. I'm going to reveal the people's money. I'm going to explain why the asymmetrical trade of the 21st century, the greatest wealth transfer mechanism available to the average person today, is silver. Right now, as I record this broadcast in May 2026, silver has decisively and violently broken through the massive psychological and technical resistance level of $50 per ounce, establishing a rock-solid, impenetrable floor in the $50 to $55 zone. For years, the mainstream financial media, the CNBC anchors, and the Wall Street elite laughed at silver investors. They mocked them. They called silver a dead asset, a relic of the past. They aggressively told you to buy heavily overvalued tech stocks, speculative cryptocurrencies, or government bonds that were guaranteed to lose to inflation. But while the masses were distracted by the flashing red and green lights of the casino, the smart money, the institutional insiders, and the sovereign wealth funds were quietly, relentlessly accumulating physical metal. And now, the sheer, undeniable math of the physical market has violently caught up with the paper illusion. You do not need to be a Wall Street insider with a PhD in economics to understand the silver market. You just need common sense, a clear mind, and basic arithmetic. According to the Silver Institute's latest, heavily scrutinized report released just last month in April 2026, the global silver market has officially entered its sixth consecutive year of a severe structural supply deficit. Let that reality sink into your mind. For 6 unbroken years, the industrial world has consumed vastly more physical silver than the mining sector has pulled out of the Earth's crust. In 2026 alone, the projected physical deficit is a staggering 46.3 million ounces. The above-ground stockpiles are being drained at an alarming, unsustainable rate. Where is all of this massive, unrelenting demand coming from? Unlike gold, which mostly sits dormant in dark bank vaults, gathering dust to back up central bank balance sheets, silver is the most highly conductive metal on the planet. It is the indispensable backbone of modern human civilization. You cannot build the green energy future the politicians constantly promise without it. Take solar panels, for instance. Photovoltaic technology relies entirely on silver paste to conduct electricity. The demand from the solar sector alone has grown exponentially. Look at the electric vehicle revolution. An electric car uses nearly double the amount of silver as a standard internal combustion engine vehicle, requiring it for every switch, relay, and battery management system. But it goes far beyond green energy. The very cruise missiles, smart bombs, and defense systems currently flying over the Middle East right now, they absolutely require silver for their advanced electronic guidance systems and radar arrays. In times of war, silver consumption by the military-industrial complex skyrockets. Add to that the medical industry, where silver's unparalleled antibacterial properties make it vital in modern healthcare, bandages, and surgical equipment. Here is the terrifying reality that keeps industrial manufacturers awake at night. There is no substitute. You cannot engineer your way out of needing silver. At the very same time that demand is going parabolic, global mining supply is falling off a cliff. You cannot simply flip a switch or push a button and create a new silver mine. It takes a minimum of 10 to 15 arduous years of geological exploration, navigating bureaucratic environmental permitting, raising billions in capital, and physical construction to bring a new producing mine online. Furthermore, roughly 70% of all the silver mined globally is merely a byproduct of mining other base metals like copper, lead, and zinc. This means that even if the price of silver skyrockets to $200 or $300 an ounce, a major copper miner is not going to vastly increase their entire mining operation, flooding the market with copper they can't sell just to extract the silver byproduct. The supply curve is entirely, brutally inelastic. The world is physically running out of available silver. When you combine the catastrophic collapse of a global fiat currency, a sprawling Middle Eastern war violently disrupting energy supply chains, and a severe, mathematically provable physical shortage of a critical industrial and monetary metal, you get the financial setup of a lifetime. Veteran chartists, technical analysts, and macroeconomic experts are looking at the silver charts right now, and their jaws are hitting the floor. The decisive breakout past $50 is already being described in institutional circles as one of the most significant, paradigm-shifting moves in the history of capital markets. The gold-to-silver ratio, which tracks how many ounces of silver it takes to buy 1 ounce of gold, currently sits in the low 60s. Historically, during massive, system-breaking precious metals bull runs, that ratio compresses violently to 30 to 1, or even its historical geological ratio of 15 to 1. If gold simply continues its current upward trajectory, driven by panicked central bank hoarding, and the ratio compresses to its historical mean, silver is not just going to $80 or $100. It is going to levels that most people currently believe are a mathematical impossibility. I want to step away from the charts, the data points, and the institutional reports for a moment. I want to speak to you directly, human to human, soul to soul. Why does this matter so deeply? Why am I on this channel practically begging you to pay attention, to wake up, and to act before December? Because I know intimately what total financial ruin looks like. I have seen families torn apart by the crushing stress of watching their life savings evaporate into thin air. I have seen the pure, unadulterated panic in the eyes of hard-working retirees who suddenly realize their fixed income can no longer cover their basic grocery bills or their life-saving medications. The political establishment will not save you. The government cannot save you. They are the ones who caused this crisis. Wall Street does not care about you. They simply want to manage your financial decline while charging you a 2% management fee. You and you alone have to be your own central bank. Buying physical silver is the ultimate peaceful act of financial rebellion. When you hold a 1-ounce physical silver coin in the palm of your hand, you are holding a real piece of the earth. You are holding something that required immense human labor, heavy machinery, and physical energy to extract and refine. It has absolutely zero counterparty risk. It cannot go bankrupt, it cannot be hacked, digitally erased, or frozen by a banking app. It cannot be printed into absolute oblivion by a corrupt, desperate politician desperately trying to buy votes and win the next election cycle. It is pure, concentrated, unadulterated economic energy that has survived every financial collapse in human history. What exactly is going to unfold between now and that critical December 2026 deadline, and how do you urgently prepare your family? First, the energy shockwave is going to deepen and permeate every facet of your life. As the war involving Iran drags on, expanding its footprint, and the Strait of Hormuz remains a heavily contested, impassable war zone, crude oil prices will stay radically elevated. This massive spike in energy costs will bleed directly into the production and transportation costs of every single item sitting on the shelves of your local grocery store. You need to prepare your household right now for sustained, painful, double-digit inflation on essential goods. Second, the fundamental purchasing power of the US dollar is going to crack on the world stage. You must watch the global currency markets carefully. The US dollar index might show temporary, illusory strength against other failing, collapsing fiat currencies like the euro or the Japanese yen. But against physical goods, real estate, and precious metals, it is entering a free fall. The grand illusion of fiat paper is breaking in real time. Third, we are going to witness the mother of all short squeezes on the COMEX commodity exchange. For decades, bullion banks have manipulated the price of silver downward by trading billions of ounces of naked paper contracts, digital silver that does not actually exist. But as the massive industrial users of silver, the global solar companies, the defense contractors, and the electronics manufacturers, realize that there is a genuine physical shortage, they are going to panic. They will stop playing paper games in the futures market, and they will stand for physical delivery. When a multi-billion-dollar tech conglomerate desperately needs silver to manufacture their flagship products, they do not care if the spot price is $50 or $200. They will pay absolutely whatever it takes to keep their assembly lines from shutting down. This industrial panic will create a physical supply squeeze that will shatter the paper manipulation and make the meme stock crazes of the past look like absolute child's play. How do you protect the people you love? You must prioritize physical metal above all else. Do not rely solely on paper ETFs or digital IOUs floating in a brokerage account. If you do not hold it in your hand, you do not truly own it. Buy physical silver coins, rounds, or bars from highly reputable, established dealers and secure it safely outside of the traditional banking system. For those looking for extreme leverage, look deeply into high-quality mining stocks. As the spot price of physical silver rises exponentially, the profit margins of the companies successfully pulling it out of the ground will explode. Look for companies with incredibly low all-in sustaining costs, robust, debt-free balance sheets, and active operations in safe, mining-friendly jurisdictions. But you must remember that mining stocks carry inherent operational and geopolitical risks, whereas holding physical metal carries absolutely none. Most importantly, you must train your mind to ignore the day-to-day noise of the market. The price of silver will be intensely volatile on its way up. The high-frequency trading algorithms on Wall Street will try to shake you out of your position with engineered price drops. There will be days it drops $3 or $4 in a matter of hours. Do not let fear dictate your actions. Zoom out, look at the undeniable macroeconomic fundamentals, and realize that mathematical reality cannot be suppressed by paper manipulation forever. I did not start the Aurex channel to spread fear or induce panic. I am not a doom and gloomer by nature. I deeply believe in the profound resilience of the human spirit. I believe in strong communities coming together to weather the most brutal economic storms. But I also believe in raw, uncompromising, unfiltered truth. The system they built is breaking under its own massive weight. The financial elites who constructed this debt-based fiat Ponzi scheme have completely run out of road. The escalating Middle East conflict is simply the horrific catalyst, the black swan event that is violently exposing the extreme fragility of everything we took for granted. They desperately want you distracted. They want you arguing endlessly over trivial politics, fighting over celebrity gossip, and consuming mindless entertainment that does not matter. Because while your attention is diverted, the single greatest transfer of wealth in recorded human history is taking place right under your nose. True wealth is never actually destroyed in a crisis. It is simply transferred. Right now, in this very moment, Wealth is permanently transferring from the hands of those who hold decaying paper dollars to the hands of those who hold real, tangible assets. I want my subscribers, the dedicated Aurex family, to be on the right side of this historic financial shift. Imagine it is January 2027. The dollar has taken a catastrophic hit. The daily news cycle is screaming constantly about hyperinflation, energy rationing, and widespread economic collapse. Most people around you are utterly terrified, hopelessly watching their life savings and their pensions melt away like ice on a hot summer pavement. But not you. You saw the writing on the wall. You understood the geopolitical shift when others ignored it. You saw the massive supply deficit. You bravely traded your dying paper dollars for honest, sound money. You protected your family's legacy and secured their future. That is the true power of financial education. That is the power of stepping outside the mainstream matrix and taking absolute control of your own destiny. Do your own deep research. Verify the Silver Institute's staggering deficit numbers. Read the institutional reports on the prolonged closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Do not just take my word for it. Let the raw data prove it to you. The numbers are screaming the truth. Silver is the undeniable Achilles heel of this corrupt, dying financial system. It has historically been called the poor man's gold. But in the crisis that is unfolding right now, it is about to deliver a king's ransom to those who are prepared. Start accumulating today. Be methodical in your approach. Be exceptionally patient. But above all else, take action. The window of opportunity is rapidly closing, and by December, the price of entry into the physical silver market may be entirely out of reach for the average citizen. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me your time and your attention. It means the world to me. If you found value in this video, please hit that like button, share this with a family member or a friend who needs to wake up to what is happening, and subscribe to Aurex. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a market update. We are in this together. Stay strong, stay vigilant, and keep stacking. This is John A.G. signing off. I'll see you in the next one.